We're gonna start in a second. So you can put that on. I'll just help you with that real quick. It's gonna be, with a little magnet just down there. You can remove the badge. You don't
Okay.
want that. Okay. I can see that. I can hear you. I'm gonna run a little some. I'm just checking that everything is working right now.
I like your ambience because it
Like
reminds
it?
me of the UK show.
Yeah.
If you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
There is he has this exactly this kind of ambience, and he invites what do you call Tom Cruise.
Okay. Oh yeah. I see exactly what you mean.
Yeah, that show.
That's a
Yeah,
good one.
yeah.
That's definitely a good one. I like it. I like it. Okay. So. Oh, you're trying that. Okay. Good. Okay. So we are getting started with the IoT show. We're live.
Okay,
Right?
we're live.
Yeah, we're live.
Awesome.
We're there.
There you go.
We're on camera. Hi everyone, this is the IoT show. I'm Olivia, your host. We are live from Austin, and we are hosted at this great social event, part of the Austin 25, Edge AI Foundation event. And we're starting with Vikash. Vikash, how are you, man?
Hey, good. I know this conference has been quite lively.
Yeah.
I'm solving a problem in the edge space.
Okay.
So I got to meet a lot of people today who are developing the edge chips.
Okay.
So I can't ask for more. It's an exciting day.
Definitely. So you'll tell me a bit more about yourself, right? You're actually a customer of Edge AI. You're looking for how you can bring compute to some very specific scenarios.
Yeah.
That are to be run up there in the sky in space. When you say the space, you mean the space, right?
That's space.
Okay.
Not the space modeling. But yeah, I'm Vikash. I'm trying to build a service
Okay.
that will produce some real-time insights by looking at satellite imagery,
Okay.
and right at the edge. Traditionally, all the data has to be downloaded from the satellites, and then processed using traditional convolution neural networks
Yeah.
and other data science approaches to extract some insights from them. But what's happening now is very exciting. There is this huge move towards transformation models, transformer-based models. And even though they are complicated compared to CNNs, we are trying to use them to generate insights right at the edge without downloading the data from the satellite to the ground stations and to the cloud.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's an exciting space to be right now.
No, it is, right, and it feels to me that it's changing really fast. Right, it's evolving really fast. You have the hardware technology evolving really fast. We had some interesting talks today about innovation in the domain of optimizing models, making them smaller, making them more efficient.
Yes.
For them to run at the edge.
Yeah.
And so that's to me super exciting. How do you perceive that?
So that's an excellent observation because there are so many there are 2 to 3 industries converging right now. So one is the transformer-based models, which is a change from the convolution neural network. So that's one industry. The second industry is these edge networks. Traditionally, everything used to happen in the cloud. But there is a lot of expenses in transferring the data from the edge to the cloud to do the centralized processing, right? So now the consensus is to move the processing to the edge.
Yep.
And added to that, there is this demand from defense, from the DoDs of the world and other commercial companies to process the data right at the edge, so that they can take advantage of the AI advancements.
Yes.
So these 3 things are converging right now.
Yeah.
Right. And even the edge chips hardware is getting an upgrade in terms of processing power, in terms of getting the energy from the sun,
Yeah.
in transferring that into power, and making it radiation hardened, right? So I think a short answer to your question is the convergence of this industry, all these three patterns, is really making founders like me look at solutions where edge processing is the answer,
Yeah.
because it enables autonomous decision
Yeah.
making
Yeah.
right at the edge. It may not be 100% possible because the power is limited at the edge. So not all crunching of numbers may be possible, but I can make an object like a satellite autonomous in terms of making decisions with a human in the loop. I believe that a human should always be in the loop to take critical decisions.
Agreed.
Right?
But there might not be human in the space where the data is collected and analyzed, right?
That's a great question. So the way that happens is there are insights that are generated at the edge,
Okay.
and that feeds into the tasking system of the satellite,
Okay.
which also alerts the people on the ground and presents them with enough data in a very efficient
Gotcha.
manner so that they can say yes or no for a certain action to happen.
Okay.
Right? So that's
Okay.
how I want to keep people person in the loop, a human in the
Yeah,
loop.
definitely.
Yeah.
So the show is called the IoT show, and my perspective that IoT will power edge AI in many ways, right? Because you need to have the connectivity to the sensors.
Yeah.
You need to be able to collect the data. The edge AI will analyze the data and render it, and so IoT is definitely part of that story.
Yeah.
You are involved in projects that are related to space.
Yes.
Do you see IoT technology being pervasive up there in space as well?
Well, I want to provide vision to the satellite.
Okay.
So, that being the vision, the way I would materialize it is using the IoT sensors in terms of cameras. Right now, all the cameras are pointed towards the Earth.
Okay.
But I envision a near future where if I rotate the camera and point that towards the orbit, I should be able to monitor the space debris.
Okay.
So that using that information, I should be able to autonomously navigate a satellite without getting hit by the debris in the orbit.
Okay,
So
yep.
there are 7,000 satellites right now, active satellites right now, with 40,000 debris. You can imagine that, but the space is huge. The 40,000
Yeah.
debris is like way apart from the satellite.
Okay.
But then you should still be able to navigate once you see one.
Yep.
So that's
Yeah.
the
So direct relationship to IoT, definitely, because you will have to have
Yeah.
control and command
exactly.
in an autonomous way. So definitely linked. You're just confirming that. That's pretty cool, man. Well, I appreciate your time, and we definitely will want people to. We'll add some links and so on afterwards there.
Yeah,
To learn more about what
absolutely.
you're doing. What do you think of the event here? What's your feeling?
No, I as a founder, I needed an avenue to connect with the vendors, the fellow founders,
Okay.
and people and large companies who are actually venturing into IoT spaces.
Okay.
So I think I got an opportunity to meet a lot of them today. Many people were very collaborative and they're offering their help to collaborate with me. So that's very encouraging.
Okay.
From a founder's
That's awesome.
perspective. Yeah.
I think that was the objective. So we're learning, we're connecting, we're networking. That's perfect.
Yeah.
So,
Awesome.
well, let's do that.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot for coming.
Thank you.
Have a good one. Everyone, thanks for tuning in. Hey, Vikesh, can you give me
I hope it was okay.
the microphone back? It was good. It was good. You have a little magnet inside. There you go. It was good. That's
Okay.
perfect.
I thought it will go for a little longer, but that is.
No, that's good. That's the time we need because we'll
Okay.
get. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I'll be around later. let me unmute you. For the
Okay.
previous guy, Pete, I forgot to unmute, so I'm gonna have to tell
Oh
him.
shit! Oh shit! Oh my god!
So
Wow.
Rob, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, it's
Thanks for
good to
being
be here. It's good to be in Austin, back in
It's
Texas.
almost your hometown.
Yes, I went to college here at the University of Texas,
Yeah.
and I grew up down here. As you well know, I
As I
arrived
well
in the
know.
Northwest by a submarine, and so it probably never would have occurred to me actually to live up in Seattle had I not gotten there via the Navy.
You're still there though. You're
I'm still
living
there, but I might move back. One of
Yeah.
these days. I have a lot of friends down here, so
So how vibrant do you think Austin is from the technology perspective?
it's super vibrant. It's I've watched Austin over the years doing 2 steps forward and 1 step back when it comes to
Okay.
technology.
Oh yeah.
When I went to school, because I'm older here, Austin was kind of a college town / government town, the state capital. So most people here were in government or they're going to University of Texas.
Okay.
And it was about 50,000 students back then. So big school. And I remember in the late 90s, like the .com thing, Austin kind of had a little bit of a surge. And then when the crash happened, it just collapsed. In fact, there were half-built skyscrapers where they just stopped building because the money was gone. It was like a kind of a gold rush kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that actually happened in Bellevue, Washington, too, in early 2000. There were some half-built buildings in Bellevue.
Yeah, sure.
And so, but this research, and then you start, I remember, Samsung opened a facility here, Motorola, then Apple, and then one by one. And it was really more manufacturing of computer type stuff. Obviously, Dell is where it all started here, with Michael Dell going to the University of Texas, building computers for people. Right? It's crazy. But you got to it's very entrepreneurial.
Definitely.
It seems like it's holding now onto this tech stuff. So many people are moving here. A lot of people are moving from California.
You see the prices like from California or Pacific Northwest. Real estate here is ridiculous.
It is. It is. It used to be cheap here.
Cheap.
Because Texas was always cheap.
Yeah.
Obviously Houston's really cheap, but Austin's hip and it's cool.
Yeah.
Because there's more to Austin than just being a cool tech place.
Yeah.
I mean, you see all the bars, all the music, all the
It's life.
So you know what? If you really want to enjoy life, and it's not just for young people. I was about to say, if you're a young person and you want to go hang out at bars, it's for all of us. And so there is so much to do. There's so much action in nightlife.
I love it.
It's awesome. Yeah.
So one of the action is the Edge AI Foundation event.
Yeah.
And you were at the panel today.
Yeah.
So tell me a bit about this panel.
It was totally ridiculous and absurd because I was involved. We had someone
People
really
do take you seriously, though.
We had a serious person in Pete asking questions about what's going on with Edge AI.
Yeah.
He was worried about, hey, is it going to suffer the same fate as IoT? He goes, I think of IoT was a drawer, a box full of cables and stuff, and we really didn't know what to do with that. We obviously didn't position it right or whatever.
Yeah.
And he goes, I want to make sure that Edge AI doesn't suffer the same fate, which it could.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, you and I learned a lot of lessons from what worked and what didn't in IoT. It was like, well, people have just built products like the Ring doorbell or the Nest thermostat and didn't talk about IoT or connected anything. It was just, here's this cool thing and it does this function for you. And people want it. I go, think about the outcome. Don't talk about the tech. It's like here at this event, you can all geek out and talk to each other.
Yeah.
But when it comes to talking to customers and positioning your product, don't do it. We thought at IoT, we'll build this mega platform in the cloud and everyone's going to use it.
Yeah.
Well, they didn't want to use it.
Well, not just us, actually. Everyone tried to build an IoT platform.
Yes.
No one tried to build an IoT solution or an actual vertical application.
Right.
We're all selling our platform. You can build your solution. And customers like, give me the solution. Give me the application.
And then the companies that did have successful products end to end, they didn't use us. They built their own thing. In every case, they built their own. Because you know what? All right, here's the secret, kids. All right. The cloud stuff that we built and that any of us built is the easy part. I know people think, oh, it's the cloud, or it's what we did was we built middleware.
Yeah.
And we let a bunch of things connect to it, and we capture data in a message queue called IoT Hub, and we grab it and we go to a database or we do some analytics. That is actually the easiest part.
Yeah.
It turns out all along the hard part was your specialty, embedded development.
Yeah.
That's the hard part.
That's the hard part.
Such a small group of people who know how to do that.
Yeah.
Lots of people can do databases and connect it, put a connection string and send data somewhere. Big deal.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interestingly, what I'm saying as well is that AI, Gen AI, but AI at the edge mostly will force people to think more about distribution of that intelligence.
Yeah.
Yes, there will be some AI on the edge device, on the tiny device down there, on the embedded software.
Right.
We talk a lot about that here.
Yeah.
Then it's going to be bigger AI running on a local gateway or a rack of servers, right? And you can have these kind of infrastructures where players like Microsoft might come back, in force because they know how to deal with servers. They know how to deal with software stacks on that server.
You're so right.
And now you're looking at, the intelligence being distributed, embedded guys doing embedded, AI guys doing both edge AI and AI on the server and AI in the cloud. And that can work, actually.
Yeah, you got great companies here like Edge Impulse that have some great tooling to do stuff on microcontrollers. I personally, we've talked about this. I've used ML.NET from Microsoft on laptops or kind of the edge gateway-ish type thing. Yeah. It's great. It does all the different types of ML that I want to do.
I tried that on Wilderness Labs Meadow.
Oh, wow.
It works.
Awesome.
It works.
Yes.
I was able to do some work with that.
That's great.
Yeah, it's .NET, right?
It's open source. It's cross-platform. It's .NET. It's something everybody knows. And so you're right. You can see the tiny, the medium, the bigger. Yeah, going back to the cloud.
Yeah. Orchestration is going to be the challenge, though. How do you make all these little tiny brains talk together, exchange information? Well, there's something called IoT.
Oh,
it used to be called machine to machine.
Oh no! What? In fact, the rise of just edge computing in general in the past.
Yeah.
When people would ask me, "What's the biggest headache or the problem?" and it was just what you said: orchestration.
Yeah.
When you did just cloud only, you had this big hub and spoke. Everybody pointed at this one place.
Yeah, yeah.
But with the edge, all of a sudden you have distributed nodes, and it's crazy. And so orchestrating that is hard. It's more complex.
Yeah. Do you remember Robotics Studio?
The which one?
Microsoft Robotics Studio.
Yes, yes.
So the two components were
was that the
there was the DSS and the CCR, concurrency runtime,
right for
and the decentralized service that was about orchestration. And so this robotics is telling us how to do it.
Oh yeah.
Right, when you think about it, robotics is about autonomous systems.
Right.
There are a bunch of nodes communicating with each other.
Absolutely.
Sharing a brain, right?
Absolutely.
So we might want to revive Microsoft Robotics Studio.
It seemed like we dove into a lot of things deeply at Microsoft, and then we just kind of give up and quit.
Yeah.
Sometimes, the robotics.
I talked to Tandy Trower last year or so.
Yeah.
He's still doing robotics.
Really?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
So we might hear from him.
And what was the really tiny version of Compact Framework or the .NET framework?
Not a
micro framework?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that because that was part of the game.
Yeah, totally. So actually, I was talking about Wilderness Labs.
Yeah.
They basically picked up where Micro Framework left it.
Okay, all right.
And they have a very interesting solution that runs .NET directly on Silicon. The difference is that Micro Framework was a subset of .NET.
Yeah.
Meadow is full .NET Standard 1.2.
That's amazing.
So you can run full .NET libraries on microcontrollers.
On a microcontroller, that's amazing. I bet people still don't believe that. It's get the word out. It's marketing all again.
The only thing though is that you have to be conscious of the fact you have limited resources.
Yeah.
When you do .NET development for the cloud, you don't care. Right?
Right.
You don't care that there's a garbage collector and that maybe a resource will be deallocated.
Right.
When you run on an actual piece of hardware, you have limited resources, you allocate objects, and then suddenly you run out of memory.
Right.
What happened, right?
What happened? But but if you have things like MicroPython and CircuitPython running on microcontrollers, why not .NET?
Yeah, totally.
Absolutely.
Totally.
Wow, a memory collection could blow out the memory on a device. And we were living in the CE world, a deterministic real-time OS, and we had to control that memory thing.
Well, we had to be conscious
of what you're
allocating or deallocating or whatever, right?
Yeah. Let's pause to collect some garbage.
Exactly. And this is where you were conscious about is that variable global or local or what's the scope of it or whatever.
Absolutely.
So yeah,
Absolutely.
definitely. Like this Stephanie,
She's crazy.
like she's crazy.
Yeah,
She's
but she's smarter than everybody, so
Yeah.
we'll keep her around, right?
So a little word about your feeling about the event. I knew you arrived today.
Yeah,
Like you started talking to people.
It's been-
What's the feeling? What's
there's a
the
lot
vibe?
of good energy. I've been talking to a lot of people I didn't know.
Yeah.
And, you know, it felt like the early days of IoT, actually.
Yeah, really.
The kind of excitement. They're
People
all
are excited.
They are. They're geeking out. They're excited about the future. And I think it's up to some of us who've been to a few rodeos to try to help make sure that they have a better outcome than we did with IoT. You know what I mean? Because I remember that time of being so excited. But you know what? I hate to say it, to bash IoT. I'm not going to bash it. There was never a more exciting time for me though than being a part of the smartphone revolution. That was a much bigger deal than IoT.
That was.
Because IoT actually never took off for us at Microsoft. But the smartphone thing, we learned a lot.
Yeah.
But we were part of a revolution that changed the world.
Yeah. Yeah, sure.
Because when you talk about products or things that, do I have to convince someone to like this product? Do I have to do a lot of marketing? The smartphone thing, people instantly go, this is the one thing I want more than anything in my life.
Yes.
That's something people should think about when they're building their products here with Edge AI.
Yeah.
Think about that smartphone where people are like, oh, I've got to have it.
Yeah.
Does your product evoke that kind of feeling?
Interestingly, to me, smartphone has been an evolution. You know, we'd seen like we started to see laptops with touch screens. Touch was the big thing, right?
Yeah.
I remember speeches
Right.
from you know, like Apple guys saying we have multi-touch, big deal.
Right.
We're just like in the Windows Phone. Seems like, what do you mean big deal? We have that.
We've got that.
We've got Windows CE had like 10 fingers,
Yes.
10 touch,
Yes.
right? 10 points. And but yeah, you're right. You need to think about this angle and maybe not the revolutionary idea,
Yeah.
but the one that will really produce something.
Right.
You know, help, support.
Yes.
You know, being the right tool for the right type.
Absolutely. Like you always hear people, the biggest thing in tech that's happened in the 21st century is the cloud. I'm like, no, it's a smartphone by a mile, by far.
Yeah.
The most successful product in the history of products is the iPhone.
Yeah.
Sure, trillions have been made off of that one product.
Sure.
It's crazy, you know?
It is
and
crazy.
So that's where all these would-be developers trying to build a product, they need to think about that. And when they talk to customers and get that feedback, or the customer, oh, yeah, that's cool. Or are they like passionate about it? It's like, I've got to have this for my business or for my whatever. Yeah.
Totally. Totally. Awesome.
Fun stuff.
Well, thanks for stopping by, man.
It's great to be here.
It's good to have you, as always.
Absolutely.
Well, everyone, stay tuned. We have more.
Hey, and go visit Buc-ee's when you're in Texas.
Yeah.
That's my shirt.
And we are back. Samir, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
So we're still at the Edge AI Foundation event in Austin. Nice social event. Samir with us. Samir, you just started a new business. So
Yeah.
before we get into the topic of similarity between IoT and Edge AI
Yeah.
that you've noticed in your not short time because you've been in that business for some time, but you still noticed immediately. Tell us about your new business. What are you doing these days?
Yeah. So as for me, I've been CEO and entrepreneur in the B2B tech field for a while.
Yep.
I sold a company in IoT and embedded software recently to Avnet, and then I decided after last summer to start something new.
Yeah.
On the statement that a lot of tech companies struggle to sell and make money, and I'm helping B2B tech companies to
Yeah.
make money, basically. and even though that looks like a wide statement, I was managing a 200 people company, so I know those kind of scaling phase.
Yeah.
And I'm helping
Successful company.
Yeah, indeed, better be successful. So the idea is to work as a fractional CRO,
Okay.
EXO, but mostly, and help them build the right team, put them in the condition of success, build the right foundation in marketing and sales, processes, tooling, routines, etc. So I work mostly with tech funds.
Okay.
Not small companies. We went from 50 people.
Yeah.
They've been so far with their existing team,
Yeah.
and now they want to level.
Gotcha. Okay. And how much of the technology field you're coming from is IoT, connecting things, grabbing insight or determining insight. There was some AI involved, but at some level, we were not talking that much about it, and then taking action on that insight, right? So that was what IoT and the cloud for IoT was about. And how much of the Edge AI conversation are you having with customers these days? As in, what the stages of their development is at? Are they still struggling at connecting stuff? Or are they already at the stage where you want to bring AI to the edge?
Obviously, there is different maturity of customers.
Yep.
I think we've been a bit overlooking IoT, meaning a lot of people say, yeah, IoT is a failure. We thought about so many devices and where are they? Where is the money?
Yeah.
Actually, it's there. The reason why we don't talk about IoT anymore is because it's there. It's done. For most companies, it's done.
Yeah.
So there are still laggards, but I won't talk about that. But if you look at the prediction of IoT in 2015, people were saying 15 billion devices in 2025.
Yeah.
We are at 18 billion devices. So it's not that far. It's not like an order of magnitude far.
Yeah.
So they were a bit over optimistic, but it's there. And as well for the money, people say, yeah, but Microsoft stuff, etc. But the hardware vendors, even Microsoft and Suzuka or Google, etc. So I would say that a lot of companies are IoT enabled.
Yeah.
Actually, so it's there, and it's probably where we don't see it anymore because when it's done, it's done.
It's mature.
It's mature.
It's pervasive. It's here. It's like
And it's spread across different verticals now, so it's no longer IoT. It's there. And they are ready for the next wave, which is Edge AI probably, and the same will happen. Edge AI, we will look at it, and when it will be done, we will say, what was it?
Where was it? I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of buzz around Edge AI because of the word AI that to me touches consumers. I really touch consumers. So the general public, anyone, you go talk to your grandma, she heard about AI, right? Like most people out there have not ever heard about IoT. I think that's one of the big differences though. And Edge AI will definitely benefit from that, visibility. Or even though people have heard about AI, Gen AI, and are just putting that big moniker of AI on it, but that's okay. That's fine. But we talk about, people know Edge AI and compare to IoT. Do you see similarities in way biology IoT can and how Edge AI is coming in as well? Are there similarities, things that you can compare?
Definitely. I think first, because at the end of the day, those technologies are for OEM or device makers that bring new features to the devices, and so they have more value for end users.
Yeah.
Be it B2C or B2B. I think the IoT was definitely a good text for that, and for people to renew their devices for something connected and have new features. We had wearables, we had the devices, etc. So we had created a wave of innovation and new products volume sales. And we saw after COVID times that electronic market and the device market was struggling because when people have things, they have those things. So unless you get some new features that makes the previous device look outdated, people
did really well with their phones.
But to look at sales, the trials, will be that new thing that will make look the previous innovation deprecated.
Yeah,
and you don't realize it unless when you have that new device, you look at the old one.
Yeah,
and AGI will do the same. So that's the first similarity.
Okay.
It will be the nice pretext for a new wave of innovation and drive new growth for OEMs, etc. Like it or not. And second thing, more on the ecosystem side of things, on the offer side of things, for the demand offer side of things, definitely, and especially in IoT you have edge, and in AI you have edge. And that follows the same dynamics.
Okay. Okay, interesting. So tell me, you're engaging with these like companies who have a B2B business. They're asking you, I want to do AGI. What's your first question to them? How do you react to it? How do you help them navigate that new world? What is your first recommendation or question that you're asking them?
The first one, everybody says so. I imagine, what's the value added? What's your value proposition? Which problem do you want to solve? But I hope that over that now there is a big things to where is the money? Where is the money? The trend is there, but who will make money out of that? And how that market will be structured? Because as of now, it's wide west, and people hope that it will. People hope the platform. People hope that there will be the one solution. Everybody wants to be that. And my assumption is it will be like that. It will still be a wide west.
Okay.
So where people want to sit in that wide west, it's kind of impression that you can be the one that will rule the platform, the framework, the solution. That won't happen. So where do you want to stand?
Interesting. Yeah, I like that. I like that approach. Other question for you, last one certainly, because similarities between IT and AGI, both in terms of the tech buzz and whatever, but it's also because there's like, as we were saying, edge in both. So there's going to be sometimes we're evolving pure IoT to embracing AGI, and maybe they've learned from their mistakes in IoT and will do things a bit differently. Do you think that's going to be the case? Do you think that's going to be something where we've been learning from the IoT domain space and we'll do it a bit differently and more efficiently? Or
some will,
some will. Okay,
some won't. I think the when I hear some messages of people talking about platforms and things like that, I say, okay, they haven't learned. Look at the IoT platforms. We had at the top of the hype curve probably 600 or 700 platforms.
We're talking with Rob Tiffany about that, the fact, or Pete, I don't recall, but we're talking about the fact that everyone was selling an IoT platform, not an IoT vertical solution solving a problem, but a platform that was generic for customers to build something with it. So you think it's like the same is going to happen?
So I think the same is going to happen. People will do the same mistake. Some won't, but it's natural. Meaning, in any wave of innovation, you will have like 5% of winners and 95% of valley of death and losers or people that. But yes, it will happen the same. And the one thing we can learn from the edge is it's real world. And real world has a lot of variety and versatility. Unlike IT, unlike a server and a gateway, they are browsers. I mean, it's the same thing. A tractor and a coffee machine and a smartwatch, they don't have much in common. It's technology, but they don't have much in common.
Sure.
They have different CPUs, they have different form factors, they have different price points, they have different physical constraints.
Yeah.
And so whenever people try to kind of platformize or unify, and I'm a bit scared, and like, guys, it's really tough. And even the big ones with deep pockets, they gave up on IoT. Microsoft is a really good example. They stopped their IoT hub initiative in those days. They continue with their past offering, platform as a service offering, because they do a lot of money with that. So they do money with IoT, but not where they thought they would. And it's really tough to be doing money at scale on the edge because there is no scale.
Interesting.
No one makes big scale in those except car industry or smartphones.
Except consumers.
Yes.
Like consumer smartphones is consumer.
Smartphone, cars. But beside that, all the mid-market, which is doing like 5,000 units, 50,000 units, there is no scale. And so big ones, they don't want to spend so much money and serving those customers and customizing and having professional services in an area. But it's there. So they try to get the unified platform. You can't, even with deep pockets. So I think that's one of the key learning we can have from IoT. And it will be the same with Edge AI. Keep in mind that it's a fragmented market with a lot of small customers that need specific solution. So to me, the ones that will make money and win are the ones that are the closest to the solution for customers.
Interesting. When we were talking before that, we're talking also about a story with Google, like making it, not making it, and having an interesting approach. Like, tell me that story again, because that was super interesting to see, your take on what can work and what can fail for Edge AI.
Yeah, that's really interesting because Google was the first one to drop their IoT platform back in time. 4 years ago, 5 years ago. And we're all shocked, like, what did they...
what's going on?
So I think they've learned. And so if you look at what they do on Edge AI, they have a really different approach. They have Gemini, which is their flagship. Gemini is what will make money for Google. Gemini is on computers, on Gmail, and they will offer that as well to people wanting to do physical AI or Edge AI. But Gemini is closed source. This is where they will do the money. They will sell the model. And then you have like the little browser, which is called Gemma. And Gemma is open source. Gemma is for edge devices. And it's fully open source. And why so? Because they don't want the hurdle of dealing with all the customization and all the support that you have to do with edge and little customers. Say, okay, that technology is Gemini approved. It has some of the feature of Gemini. And take it and customize it as you like. It's open source. We don't make money on that, but we'll make money at the end of the model anyway.
Gotcha.
So that's really interesting. I think this is where the market will go. And they've learned a lot from IoT. And I think we should look carefully at what they do because that's a really interesting
because they're not looking at making money immediately, but they're looking at the attach to the bigger service that will make the money.
And plus, we know the engineers in our market, they like to customize things. They like to touch, to twist. And I think going open source is a really smart way.
It's a smart way. Awesome. Samir, brilliant. Nice insight. Thanks for stopping by.
Thanks for your time.
Man.
It was great.
do this. And we are back. So now we have Wasim with us. And he'll make a short introduction. So we're still in Austin. It's the Edge AI Foundation 2025 in Austin. We're talking about Edge AI. We're talking about it in relationship with IoT. Right now, Wasim is with us. Wasim, how are you?
Yeah. It's very pleasure to be with you, Olivier. Thanks
Thanks
for
for coming. So where are you from?
like I'm originally from Belgium,
Okay.
Brussels.
Okay.
That's where I was grow up and I live all my life.
Okay.
Yeah. At the moment I'm in Spain. I work for Oracle.
Okay.
I'm a software engineer there.
Okay.
But I'm co-founding my company at the moment called Gaia, and we have several products. We build some models for edge components. And we have also a very nice product that we are launching for companies that is called Snipe Search.
Okay.
It's more or less a search engine for companies.
Okay.
It has a lot of benefits for company.
Okay.
More or less, it's very private. It lets the company control where the data go from their employees and from their also associates and so on.
Okay.
Meaning it's more or less a search engine powered by AI. It has a behavior of open source intelligent detective.
Okay.
More or less, it's not what the paradigm that we came on with. That's why we call it snipers, because we are sniping the data.
Okay.
Exactly.
Interesting.
It's really efficient. It's sustainable. Exactly. It's very efficient, sustainable.
Okay.
It's maybe 25 times cheaper than anyone on the market at the moment.
Okay.
Meaning that we are using less resources than everyone.
Okay.
And this is the part that we are very proud of.
Okay. Nice.
And also we are respecting a lot of privacy about the company data and everything. And everything is on a premise, meaning that your data is in a good hands with us.
Okay, like that, I like that. And we discussed that, but I think we'll do a deeper dive, in a following episode, just the two of us, looking at demos and so on. Putting that in the context of IoT and Edge AI. So actually, we are at that Edge AI event.
Exactly.
I'd love for you to tell me more. Why did you come here? We're talking about AI. Many people consider AI as being Gen AI, but we are here to tell them it's not just about Gen AI. AI is about multiple type of AIs, and Edge AI itself is a big portion of that. Bringing models down to devices, to tinier devices, optimizing the models and so on. So, tell me about your journey into Edge AI. Why you're here today, like talking about these new companies, but how does it relate to Edge AI? You say.
More or less, like with Edge AI, it's a very nice story that we have with the foundation.
Yeah.
We started as students. We were presenting some papers and so on.
Yeah.
And after some different meeting with some different people, and we have like a lot of connection here. That's why I encourage everyone to come to this kind of event. It's have been really a source of information, of knowledge, which has been a source of connecting with people. And we had the opportunity with the Edge Foundation to create the knowledge AI Edge Foundation knowledge in order to give access to everything that is related to AI on the edge to the people that are interested by this. And actually, Snipe Search started with this. We started by applying and creating the knowledge AI. And after this, we said, okay, we started with the basic, let's say, structure that's called RAG, retrieval augmented generation. And after we said, okay, we have this RAG, it works quite well, it's a chatbot that people can use back on the Edge AI Foundation. And after we said, okay, we can bring something better than is in the market. And we came up with this idea of saying, okay, people don't want to have directly the answer. They want to have the answer, but they want to check from where the answer came from and who told and who is talking about this. It's sourcing is a very important stuff for this. Even though the human, when he's like trying to create a report, big criteria is the sourcing. From where he brings his information and so on. Then we said, okay, we will try to bring something better than retrieval augmented generation. Therefore, we came up to say, okay, we need to create an intelligent search engine. Therefore, we indexed all the knowledge that you had from the Edge AI Foundation. And we are very grateful for them because they were very cooperative and they help us a lot with sharing all this information with us and even more promoting us. It's very, very nice. And we said, okay, how can we give access to this information the best way to the
Yeah.
users. And actually, we came with a search engine that is intelligent, meaning we indexed all the data,
Okay.
and we came with a novel approach that is scooping data.
Okay.
More or less, AGI Foundation, when you go and ask information on AGI Foundation, you don't want to know information about, I don't know, brands or other stuff that are not related to this. And we said, okay, we don't need all the information on the internet. We need the specific information that are related to snapshot. Therefore, we thought, okay, we need to create a model that is able to target that kind of information.
Okay. Yeah.
And we came up, after 2 or 3 months of hard labor,
Yeah.
we came up with a model that is able to query any search engine that you have, that is Google, that is Baidu, that is Yahoo, whatever you have. He's able to construct the query that will match exactly the information that you want.
Okay. Yeah.
I'll give you an example. If you want to check about the next event of the AGI Foundation,
Yeah.
you will construct a query by targeting the AGI Foundation website,
Okay.
the event page, and he will scrap all this information, and he will ingest it, and he will construct current information for you. He will bring all the sources and say to you, okay, I have all this information that is coming from that source. I'm just exposing it to you. I'm not saying anything about it. You have, as user, to take the final decision.
Okay.
And I go back to different sources, and I bring you different sources, and you can take the decision. Because humans have different way of interpreting information. Bias is part of this.
Yeah.
And, the bias cannot be like corrected or targeted by a software. It needs to be the human and the final end user that you have to take the decision.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what the innovation is coming with Snapchat. Also, we came up with a lot of stuff. It's like the fact-checking policy. The fact-checking policy is more or less an algorithm that we came up with, and is like, we'll take all the information that you have, and you can say, okay, for me, the truth is if the majority of the sources that I have gathered say the same thing.
Okay.
If all the sources say the same thing, like I have 6 sources that say A, and I have 3 sources that say B,
Yeah.
I will trust the source that say A.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
Because now this can be customizable. Meaning, if you don't think that the truth is that, I don't know, you think that some authors, you have a list of authors, a set of websites, that you think that these people are really, really trust, they say always the truth about your subject, you can say, okay, whenever things come from there, I'm sure 100% that this is true. And you can bias the model to say, okay, everything that is not coming in that truth, you can say, okay, I don't.
Is it a way of sorting out the hallucination that we see in Gen AI, which is like kind of
Exactly.
Because interestingly, you're injecting into something that's supposed to be neutral a bias, which is very human,
Exactly.
to make it better.
Yeah.
That's interesting. That's an
Yeah,
interesting
because
approach.
bias is part of the human decision.
Yeah, sure.
And the bias is like, it's not an objective concept, it's a subjective concept.
Yeah, but it's based on experience.
It's based on experience.
It's based on what you perceived and lived.
Exactly.
So maybe you've been exposed to things that were not real, but still, it's based on that, right?
Exactly.
So,
I completely agree with you, and I think you put a very nice point on this. It's like, it's not to the software to take the decision, it's always to the human
it's still real.
And now AI, and now we are coming with agentic workflows that will be implemented in many workflows in companies.
Yeah.
And we always need a human decision at the end.
Sure.
We can optimize all the chain by putting AI, but for security and for also truthfulness, you need a human that decision.
Yeah. So it's interesting because I had a conversation with someone like early on today, and he's talking about bringing Edge AI to space, where there's no human.
No.
But still, that's interesting because in this concept, the idea was to say Edge AI will do a lot of the work to extract insight and information out of raw data coming from tons of sensors. but it's not meant to make the decision. It will bring the information needed for a human to say yes, go or no go or whatever, right? And that's interesting because it's used as a tool that will filter, analyze the data, and provide it in a digestible way for a human to make that final decision.
Exactly, I completely agree with you on this point. We need to see Edge AI as components that help us take the decision. And one of the things that is very, very important to take in account, and what Edge AI brings, is the control, the security, and the privacy of your own decision.
Yeah.
It's more or less what you say is I can customize something that behaves like I want,
Yeah,
and I can scale it
yeah,
to several components that work in parallel, bring me the information,
yeah.
and I centralize everything on my own decision.
Okay, interesting. I will still challenge a bit of that in a way, in the following way. I'm coming from the world of embedded, where the ultimate goal is automation, where we want to automate a lot of systems, and there's things that can be automated. Safety, security, precision, quality of things that can be automated to a certain extent, right? To a certain extent, right? So there's going to be part of things that will be automated. Edge AI will contribute to make big, good decisions on things that can be automated. But I agree with you, we still have an oversight that will be a human one. And it could start with the configuration of what are the parameters that will be used for that automation, right? The parameters could be don't kill a human, or it could be this is a safety zone, and the criteria are if someone enters without a safety hat, without gloves, you stop everything, right? That's the automation part. The human part is configuring that automation by deciding what criteria are the ones that need to be implemented to warrant your safety, right?
I completely agree with you on also that point. We can't identify all the workflow that we have.
Yeah.
Because, like you said, there is a lot of decisions that have been taken by human, and more or less, if you take safety, quality, every company don't have the same criteria.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
And the fact that you don't have the same criteria and that you have the same rules, it makes the decision not the same at the end. If you take a model, the model will always come up with the same thing.
Yeah, true.
And it's not true in the business side. In the business side, it's not always the same thing. And everyone is taking a different approach. If you want to target B2B and business companies, you need to take this in account. They have their own philosophy, and they have their own things that are important and things that are less important for them.
True. I like that. Well, Sim, that's awesome. Thanks also for your insight. There's like so much we could talk about, but we have other people want to bring in.
Yeah, sure.
So we'll have you on the IoT show again.
Yeah,
well,
with a little demo.
But I will little demo, and I will challenge you to talk to IoT people as well. You know, because we're talking about search engine and things like that, but these have applications in the realm of Internet of Things, and that's definitely the conversation I have with you. Awesome.
Yeah, many thanks, man.
Thanks a lot, man.
Yeah,
see you soon. And we're back still at the Edge AI Foundation Austin 2025 events. Social events going really well. It's pretty noisy over here. And we have Timush with us today. How are you?
Hi, how are you?
I'm great. So we have people from the industry, people from academics. Tell us about yourself. What do you do?
I'm a professor in computer engineering and secondary applied computer science from Johns Hopkins University. And I'm also one of the technical program committee chairs and tenure track for Edge AI Foundation.
Interesting. Let's jump at it. Edge AI and your Activity AI Foundation. How do you see this? I don't know if it's a new technology. It's like a new name on a set of technologies. It's evolving super fast. How do you see applications in your domain for Edge AI?
Yeah, so Edge AI computing is not really a new concept. So we have had this in all these different names: embedded computing, local processing, onboard processing. But now that it's kind of the role of Edge AI and Edge computing becomes very critical because of all these exciting applications that is coming, and also with the advent of all these foundation models that very computation intensive and memory intensive. So the importance of Edge AI computing becomes even more important. So, for example, in my research, which are all about embodied intelligence and robotics, Edge AI computing or edge computing plays a key, essential role to make the robotics more reliable and performing in real time.
Okay.
So in robotics, in general, so one of the key requirements is that to be able to reliably interact with the environment in real time, be able to operate in distributed fashion, reliably, making sure that all the decision making is happening in real time. And on the other hand, we want to have a lot of operations. So most of these robots nowadays, they have multiple different sensor modalities, perception, different, kind of sensing in terms of the audio, LiDAR, radar, as well as obviously everyone is just using large language models. Maybe as part of the planning of basically navigation of these robots or operation of these robots. So if you think about it, if you want to put all these devices and these operations on the cloud, so there will be a lot of bottlenecks. So that's where the edge computing comes.
Interesting. And how much trust do people put into that piece of software, which is different from some piece of hard real-time software that is deterministic? So is Edge AI as reliable for application, as sensitive or critical as a medical robotic arm or something like that?
Very good point. As you know, the heart of my research is basically benchmarking this type of edge computing versus the cloud computing that you can have maybe more powerful models and computation on the clouds versus that you have a very resource constrained processor that you need to feed all these models in it. So obviously the accuracy and the performance in terms of the accuracy always gets a major issue when you go to the edge computing, because edge computing by default means that so you're computing on some less computation power, so power.
Sure, but they're more specialized though, right? Because you have one set of sensors and data points, and you will try and determine what's the actual outcome of a series of environmental data you're getting from this limited set of sensors. But you're very specialized. You're not using a generative AI thing to am I doing good, or it's kind of something very specific.
Yeah, very good point. For example, in the domain of robotics or embodied intelligence, where we are putting the foundation models like large language models. So the large language model can be fine-tuned as a domain-specific core, which is very efficient in performing such particular operations that is particularly trained for the embodied intelligence. So having said that, that doesn't remove the generality of these particular models, because they can still actually do a lot of great reasoning to perform the planning, but they don't need to know French or, for example, Chinese in terms of these particular objects. They become actually much more specific to perform these operations much better. However, still there is a big gap when you want to bring all these operations on the edge devices. because as perhaps you and the audience know that there are many ways to reduce the complexity in terms of, for example, reducing the bit precision, distilling the models, to significantly reduce. So there are always these trade-offs that you need to find out and to find the best parameters to the most reliable solution on the edge.
Sure, we had some interesting talks about what you're describing this morning. There was like, at some point I was kind of lost. It was like, wow, that's going deep. And I understand why, right? Because we need to solve these problems so that we can make these models more accurate, more reliable. Another thing that I have in mind, my perspective on robotics is that it's a lot about distribution of the intelligence. There's been about orchestrating and distributing that intelligence to have specialized nodes that know what to do and do it really well.
Yes.
And is it correct to believe that AGI will enhance these various entities? And like, just to simplify, in a robotic arm, you're going to have a very smart elbow, very smart wrist, very smart clamp, and you don't need a one big brain that controls it all, but you need to be able to have very smart pieces that can communicate and be orchestrated.
Yes, that's a very good point. So in the domain of robotics, distributed computing becomes a major role, but also a critical challenge, because we are talking about edge computing. By default means that we don't want to pass lots of amount of data either to cloud or between the devices. So when we talk about the robotics, and when there are multiple agents that we want to, our basic mission to perform some particular task. So you have to make sure that computation that is happening in these the nodes are efficiently processed, that you don't need to pass so much of data between each other, right? Because that's kind of against the edge computing.
Nice. Last question for you. So you're in the world of research, right? How close do you think Edge AI is to be used in production? Is it something that is like just a buzzword? Or I have my opinion, but I want to have yours. Is it something that people will start using in production, in actual solutions soon?
Definitely. In my world, again, I'm working on all different sectors of the, federal agencies, industry, academia. So over these past 10 years, there has been a huge emphasis on bringing the computation on the edge because of many reasons, because of the privacy, because of the bandwidth required. And I think right now with this basically advent of all these large language model and huge models, so the use of the rating models, again, on the edge, becoming much more essential.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for your time
very
tonight.
much.
Enjoy your night. Thanks for stopping by.
Thank you.
And we're back. We're back with Ryan. So still at the Edge AI Foundation 2025 event in Austin. Ryan, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you. It's been great. It's been a great event.
Cool. So I'll ask you about the event, what you've seen there. We started discussing at a panel where you had some interesting realization maybe, or thoughts, and we'll share about them. But before we get into that, who are you? What do you do?
That's a great question. So I'm currently business development manager at FreeWave Technologies.
Okay.
We're based out of Boulder, Colorado, and we do private 900 megahertz wireless networks. So if you're in oil and gas, energy infrastructure, you're probably familiar with us. But yeah, there's no Wi-Fi, there's no cellular tower, nowhere in the middle of nowhere. So we're I guess you can think of us as long-range private Wi-Fi.
Okay, interesting. I've heard about that already.
Yeah.
I've been in IoT for a long time.
Yeah.
And so we talk a lot about getting to the places where there's no connectivity.
Yeah.
And LoRaWAN has been a big, there's been a big push, but we're low bandwidth, so it's not always really efficient there. So yeah, interesting scenarios there.
Yeah.
Well, we might have you back on the IoT show for a deeper dive into that.
I love talking about it.
Awesome.
Thank you.
But here we are at the Edge AI event from the foundation, and very interesting talk that we had today. It's first day.
Yeah.
It started pretty hard.
It was a great event.
It started pretty. I've been to some session that were like very technical. Some of the ones that were trying to focus more on the business aspect of things.
Yeah.
There was an interesting panel. Couldn't be here for the panel.
Yeah.
But you were telling me that there were some interesting discussions there.
Yeah, I think the Edge panel, how they that Pete led to end the day with Rob, Stephanie, and a few others. It was a very interesting discussion, and it just kept bringing me to the point to where you have these OT-heavy sensor manufacturers, machine vision. I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with these industrial use cases, and they're really great at solving problems on the machinery level, on the OT level, right? Hey, I'll sell you this laser sensor, this temperature vibration sensor. Well, where I'm still seeing that disconnect is where I don't think software can necessarily move as quick to address those situations. Take a manufacturing facility, for example. If production's down or inhibited, they are throwing everything at it to get that up and running. You look at a final assembly plant for an automotive company, and they'll actually charge system integrators by the minute tens of thousands of dollars for losing production. Because if you're rolling a $60,000 truck off the assembly line every 4 minutes, that adds up very quickly, right? True. So a lot of these companies on the OT side of things are great at solving these issues, mapping it to a PLC, but that's just a Band-Aid, right? And I think now when we're looking at Edge AI, I'm always trying to think of, okay, how can we address those issues and have software companies partner with these traditional hardware companies, allowing them to move quick enough to address those problems today.
Interesting.
And
that's interesting. And there's something that I'm reacting on that because I'm actually working with customers who are looking into, well, they're at the stage of connecting their assets to know when they're down.
Yeah.
But you know what? That's the reality of things, right? They have PLCs that operate and that do their shit, and then suddenly it goes down, and they, as you were saying, need to scramble to figure it out. Very often they cannot do postmortem, because they have to continue producing. And you're telling them, hey, I've got this new IoT thing, and you need to change everything. It's like, no way.
Don't touch anything.
But that's interesting because the Edge AI comes with a proposal that potentially, allows you to run intelligence as close as possible to what the data is produced. Without being too intrusive. And being able to first monitor what's going on, right? And so the solution we're looking into is like, how do we bring some algorithms? Well, first, like some entity that would be running down there and hooking up to an OPC network, eventually back like Modbus, CAN, whatever is there, and model the data to make sense of it. That's the first freaking stage before doing anything else, right?
And that's a lot of manufacturing customers today still struggle with basic networking. They have legacy equipment. They have machines that have been running for 30, 40 years that are running on like a PLC 5 from Rockwell. So, okay, how do I, and then the machine next to it could have a brand new Siemens PLC on it. So how am I pulling data from not only this brand and the generations of those brands, but also these other brands in the process? And then how do I create a wireless local network when you're in a manufacturing facility and there's very tall metal structures? Well, that's not great for RF.
Interesting.
Right? So
Interesting.
how are you going to, okay, so you have an Ethernet network. How old is that Ethernet network? Because I've been in automotive facilities where the manufacturing facility, the Ethernet that they laid is so old that it can't handle all the traffic.
Yeah, because it's usually Cat 1 or Cat 2.
Yeah.
It's like, what is?
So it's you're right. I mean, it's like, how are we going to solve these problems with AI if we don't have access to the data, if we don't have the networking skills? And I think, yes, there's solutions out there. You have inductive automation, you have with Ignition, you have Kepware, right? You have these protocol conversion, these aggregators, right?
Yeah, true.
But even then, before you get there, okay, solve the networking, okay, then normalize the data, and by then, how much time have you taken away from their uptime productivity? How many tens of thousands of dollars have they invested? And they haven't seen a dime at this point.
True. But so that begs the question.
Yeah.
Like, is Edge AI going to pierce or help in that domain? And if that's the case, how do you see it really being used there?
I'm still hopeful. I really am.
Yeah.
I think there's going to be a startup that just comes out of nowhere. How much is a license for any of these software companies I've mentioned?
Sure. Yeah.
How much is an HMI license? I'm not even going to say it, but $2,000 for a piece of software, just to visualize data and pull it from. Someone's going to figure out, okay, I can make this little Swiss Army knife and start with PLCs. I really think there's going to be a startup that solves the data normalization layer, and then they're able to monetize the insights off AI. I haven't seen anyone do it.
Well, there are
in a
concepts
disruptive
like
way.
there are concepts people are trying to unite around this notion of unified namespace, right? To try and unify the data from these different sources. Once the data has been unified, you're already one step further to be able to have that data being consumed by some form of AI that could do anomaly detection, could do predictive maintenance, could do that what has been promised when we're talking about IoT and connecting assets, right?
Oh, man. Yeah, I was actually at the Prove It conference last week with Walker Reynolds and the Unified Namespace guys, and it was nice. You know, it was nice to see not all vendors were successful. Okay.
Yes.
So there's that vaporware, right? There's these big brands, these big logos. I'm not going to mention any names, but they give you this promise of it's easy to connect up all your assets. We're going to give you, it's going to be magic. We're going to give you this single pane of glass, and it's going to solve all your problems. Well, no. You need to not only work with mapping that data, but you have to work with the process specialists, the subject matter experts, and say, okay, what's your biggest cause of downtime with this particular part of your process? And I being in the automotive manufacturing in Michigan, those aren't always very visible, and so there's not everything is climate control. So there's a huge manufacturing tier 1 automotive supplier in Saline, Michigan, and they do like injection molding and different processes. But during the summer, it was really hot and humid, and they would actually have adhesive issues. So they would have like instrument panels were coming apart, the parts in the process. Well, that only happened when it was really hot and humid. So unless you had like a temperature humidity sensor and you were able to correlate that data with the production info, you're not going to know anything, right? So you have to capture, the right metric. You have to talk to the controls engineer, the process, the quality engineer. You say, what should we be looking for? Are we gathering the right type of data to solve these problems? And I think until you have that,
capturing the right type of data and making sense of it. And interestingly, when you think about who's dealing with data these days, it's like data scientists or business people, not the operators. So they don't really know what to do with that data, actually, right? If you send it all to the cloud and to some Power BI and whatever, even Microsoft Fabric for someone to figure out what to do with it,
well, that is exactly it. I love talking to operators. When I go into a manufacturing facility, I think I kind of judge people. When you get into the meeting room, you walk through the manufacturing facility, you set your stuff down, and they go, do you want to walk the floor? It should always be a yes.
Yes.
If you say no, I would almost ask you to leave if I were a manufacturer.
True.
Because no process is the same.
Yeah.
You can have duplicate lines in the same facility with two different engineers, and they're going to have different issues.
Yeah.
And they're going to have different programming changes, right? And so it's really tough to try and say that you know everything. But almost every scenario where I went into a facility and they're like, I have this really tough problem, I don't know how to solve it. I'm like, okay, and they'll be like, engineer, hard-headed. He's like, I'm gonna go back to my desk and grab something. As soon as he leaves, I talk to the operator. I'm like, hey, what's really going on? 9 times out of 10, they told me what was really going on. But because I said it, even though the operator said it a million times, I have to reframe it, you know, put it in engineering terms. A lot of these operators are doing the same thing 1,000 times a day.
Sure.
They want the machine to run because they don't want to get yelled at. They don't want to deal with it. And sure, sometimes you deal with operators sabotaging equipment, sticking things in weld tips because they're not getting breaks. Okay, I get that. But a majority of the time, people don't want problems. They don't like friction. And so if this is getting in the way of them doing their job, they're going to want to solve their problems. And almost every time they can tell you.
So back to your comment about the fact that you're hopeful.
I'm hopeful.
You're hopeful. Do you think Edge AI is going to help solve some of these problems, and how do you think it's going to be the case?
Man, you asked this question 5 minutes ago. I didn't even answer it. So I appreciate you bringing us back. I do think it's hopeful because I think now more so than any other time, it's easier to deploy these solutions.
Okay.
GitHub has a ton of options. iFoundation is starting to roll out models. Hardware. Not everything has to be a GPU, NVIDIA powered, specific, high horsepower, you know? I think of NVIDIA, they're like a sports car, right? I mean, you have to run them high heat, high power all the time. Well, that's not, a majority of the AI applications aren't that. You can do a lot with an NPU. And so I'm seeing a lot of hardware manufacturers refreshing those. I think the gap that we're seeing now is new hardware, and then you have a lot of startup companies or software companies that are trying to figure out how to monetize it.
Yeah.
Because on the software side of things, I just recently came from an IoT platform company. You got to look at it and say, okay, who do we want to invest our time and resources in? Is this a scalable problem? Is this going to be profitable for us to have our engineers build this? And on the hardware side, you're doing the same thing. But the problem with hardware companies is a lot of them view software not as a business expense, but they just see it as a waste of money. It's a tax, right? They say, okay, I don't want to invest in software. Well, that's where AI is going to be its best, is you have hardware working in collaboration with software to solve problems. So you need these hard-headed industrial manufacturers with all this application knowledge and the trust that they built up with their end users to keep their machines running, and that sense of urgency that they understand. You have to have the software companies being able to, also have that trust and saying, I trust that you're good at what you do and you know what problems you solve, and I trust that I'm picking a winner. And unfortunately, I see a lot of AI startups.
The divide is real. The divide is real. I mean, these are two different worlds.
It is. You see these AI startup mentalities where they try to do it all themselves. Or they go through partnerships. Well, I think a lot of them get lost because they don't have access to the end user to understand the problems more thoroughly. So I really think it takes a team. You need someone with access to a channel and partnerships and end user. You need hardware excellence. You need software excellence. And I think AGI, I'm very hopeful for it. I'm very hopeful.
Awesome, Ryan. Thanks for giving us hope.
Yeah, thank you. It was great.
Thanks for stopping by. Okay, so we are back. Certainly for one of the last interviews of the night. Thanks for you staying around. You'll have these ones on demands and ways. And for this last one, we have Walt with us. Walt, how are you?
Good to see you.
Good to see you too. What are you? What are you doing?
I am a general manager for Tribe AI. We are a.
I like the name, by the way. Tribe AI is pretty cool. I like this.
Tribe Vibe, baby. We're an AI native services company. We work with mid to large enterprises to deliver AI products and solutions that matter. I first got into IoT working in the renewable energy industry. That's where I started my career. Solar panels, looking at monitoring systems and hooking all of those things up. And starting to see the power that data has. From there, I started working in an AI company in 2016, almost 10 years ago now, here in Austin. And I remember back then, there was IoT platforms everywhere.
Yeah.
Like everyone was trying to be the IoT platform that
Tell me about it.
works and PTC, and some of those are still around today. But for us, we were working with a lot of really large companies to do a lot of like experimentation type stuff. And then it was more of your traditional machine learning, automated model building, anomaly detection. The natural language processing was more like, help me complete this sentence, or help me understand what's in this document. But very high level. At that point, I saw that this was a gold rush. It was like, oh, we're working with massive companies here, and they are still all trying to figure it out. For me, that then led me to wanting to figure out where I can sell picks and shovels. And I spent the last prior to joining Tribe AI, I spent 6 years working for AWS, selling cloud services, understanding, how people essentially build their houses on the internet, right? And develop and deploy these applications, everything that goes into that. 2022, we had the ChatGPT moment. Yeah, they came across and kind of brought me back to like, oh, well, we have all of these great tools, and AWS is essentially like going to Azure. It's like going to like a Home Depot. You can buy all these things to build what you want, but at the end of the day, you still need someone to build them. And that's what led me to wanting to seek out, hey, how can I get more on the build side, right? 90% of tech is hype. 10% of it is the stuff that mostly system integrators and consulting companies and innovative R&D departments build. That then get shown at nice fancy demos. So now working at Tribe, there's some common trends. There are things that I've noticed that I wanted to talk to you about and get your thoughts and opinions on. I published this blog post earlier today called "When ML Companies Grow Up to Be AI Organizations." And a trend that I have noticed is particularly working with companies that have well-established machine learning practices is they don't really see how generative AI could apply to their business.
Because often it doesn't.
And I've heard that sentiment here today too. I've heard in talking to people here that like, generative AI maybe isn't accurate, or it isn't helping me. The two traps that I think I see people fall into is the it's not accurate enough for me trap, the precision trap. Why would I risk hallucination? Or the enhance an existing process trap, right? I have this process that I do. It would be great if AI could do this process for me. I would say the third trap, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention it, given what I do, is the let's wait and see trap. Like everything's moving really fast. Let me
do nothing. Yeah, I hear you. I actually share the same sentiment that, I think there's some confusion happening with the buzzword AI.
Right.
First, to start with, right? ML is not something new. It's like machine learning, bringing specific mathematic concepts to solve solutions based on like lots of input and resolving problems is something that is not new. Generative AI came in really strong from the buzz perspective, like with very impressive demos and applications. And the word AI became Gen AI. And the problem has been that everyone to be relevant needs to put AI in their name, whatever. So the ML companies you're mentioning they're doing a great job at putting together algorithms to do anomaly detection, predictive maintenance, things that are really useful.
Yep.
Vibration, analytics for detecting an object in its movement, falling, whatever. This kind of things, right? Cramming that into microprocessor to make that processor like microprocessor smarter. Like these companies have been around for some time, but now they need to put that AI word because that's what they need to do. So people are even more confused. And I like your saying of like they're coming from an ML company becoming an AI one. They're just adopting the word AI and
I think it's more than that, right?
Is
I
it?
think that what you need to think about is, okay, and I think a lot of people had this ChatGPT moment, right? Like the first time they went in and they typed it and it was like, oh wow, like this actually feels really natural. What does Gen AI actually do is it exposes these technical endpoints. So all of these like anomaly detection and risk models and everything like that, it still requires someone with expertise.
Yeah, true.
To like go and analyze and look at the graphs and look at those charts and like figure out the regression model. And what did Gen AI do? It made it so like, oh, maybe I can just ask this question and put it on.
And okay. Is it fair to say that Gen AI could be the HMI for data? The human interface machine. Human machine interface (HMI), right? So,
absolutely. I mean, for really, I mean, data is a very broad term these days too, right? I would say for us at Tribe AI, like when we originally started working in 2019, and all we do is AI. It was a lot of more predictive maintenance and anomaly detection type use cases. I've been working with companies today, and like an example of a company that I was working with, they built all these very amazing computer vision models. They built one to do solar analysis. They've done one to do shade analysis. They built a model to detect the whole total roof area. They built a model to detect the amount of shade that roof might get, or the number of like crevices that it might have. I'm missing the specific term.
But I see what you mean.
And so they have all the, for them it was like, why would we need Gen AI? Or like, I don't need to use generative AI to tell me how many chimneys are on that roof. Like I have a model that can tell me that. That's where I think a lot of these companies are missing the point. Is that all of those models that you built, those are essentially tools that are in the tool belt. What is the actual question you're trying to answer, or this company is trying to answer with this imagery data? It's has the property tax assessment changed on this house? Is this a good house for putting solar on? What's the third one that they?
You basically combine. You're going to use Gen AI to combine the insights that these other models are extracting from raw data, and they're specialized to extract specific insights from the specific data sets. And Gen AI could help you correlate all of that.
This is the big change I think that happened with DeepSeek that might have gotten overlooked by where it actually came from. Was this idea of like thinking out loud and reasoning models. ChatGPT came out, or OpenAI came out with their reasoning model, which actually like up to that point it was all about speed and like how quickly could I generate a response. And I think that's where a lot of people have gotten this misconception that Gen AI is inaccurate. For me, because like at the end of the day, it's going to tell you kind of what you want to hear, but the reasoning models actually thought and would think through the different ways that they would solve it. They would break a problem down. They would analyze what tools or what things I would need to solve this, and then go back and run kind of multiple pathways to figure out what is actually the best answer, and also help keep those things on track. By using these machines, by thinking of Gen AI more as this orchestration layer, and of this as its master craftsman, as I refer to it, you're allowing it to ground itself in those precise models and those precise capabilities. Makes sense. You just need to like get above that level of like, I'm looking at this for this specific piece of data, and ask that one higher level question: what is the actual like value of the problem we're trying to solve?
Yeah, interesting. And so, there's a term you've been using, like early on in the conversation, like before we were live, that was interesting to me, which is how do you not take risks? What are the risks that you're taking when you're onboarding on the Edge AI background and trying to figure out what the scenario is for using Edge AI? What are the risks that you're facing, and how do you minimize them?
Yeah, I think for us, we have some models that we kind of use. I think a general guiding principle is think big, start small, set yourself up to scale fast. I often will prompt companies to think about their business in 20 years. Or 10 years. But like, what is the future of your business, and what does it look like? And maybe think back 10 years ago to what your business was and how that was evolved. And it's easier to have a much bigger vision and find a small place to start than to like find that, wouldn't it be great if we could summarize this piece of text and do this thing? Like, again, summarization is probably one tool in the toolkit of a broader agent type-based architecture.
Yeah, totally.
And then I think that, starting very specific with those specific tasks and thinking about what are the tools that I'm going to build. And then once you start to look into what it is you're actually starting to try to leverage, then you want to and start thinking about agents. You still want to try to keep those very narrow and keep the tools that they're using all within one orchestration. Where I see some companies start to fall apart is they introduce complexity too quickly, right? I want to have all of these models kind of talking to one another, and that makes it really hard once you introduce a new variable. Like, you don't know how all these things are going to fall apart. Having one level above, it can basically say, I know what tools I need to use to solve this. You're making it simple before of like, I've just seen kind of like Edge AI kind of like bifurcate into different types of IoT and different edge parts, right? And those all kind of serve a different function.
Yeah. What I was describing is this notion that the edge is taking different types of shapes, different sizes, but they are not independent of each other. And you'll bring different types of AI or sizes of AI or more or less specialized models on these different types of edges. When you think about a microcontroller, let me go all the way down to a motion sensor. Now you can bring AI all the way down to the sensor itself to not just send the actual gyroscope data, but to send the I'm falling, I'm walking, I'm on a car. And that's the kind of information that sensor will be able to send. And then you look at the intermediate edge device that will be maybe a bit richer, connected to different smart sensors, collecting these different insights, making sort of determination eventually have some level of automation down there, and it could be about driving a vehicle around obstacles, something like that. And then you have heavy edge, what I would call heavy edge, where you're bringing part of the cloud compute and capabilities on premise, not on a device, but most likely on a rack of servers, where you still own the data, you guarantee privacy, you guarantee latency as well. But you have these heavier models that usually run in the cloud, run down there, or at least a portion of them. Maybe some of these large language models applied at that level on the factory floor, on premises, not depending on the connectivity to the cloud. And then eventually you have the cloud part, which I see becoming more and more relevant in gathering data after or before normalization, and then being doing its role of big data management. Like, you have infinite storage, you can shove it and correlate with a bunch of different sources and then make something out of that. But it's something where you can see now, how the different edges combined with the cloud could make sense if you're able to bring the edge, the type of edge AI that you need in the right places to deal with the data that is down there. Does it make sense?
Yeah, so I mean, we're both ex-hyperscalers, I would say.
Yeah.
Why would you not send everything to the cloud?
As the hyperscaler, I would ask this question. But on the other side of the story, you talk to people, it's just like, why would I send the data? And interestingly, I'm working with a customer I cannot name right now. They are operating, their machines in like hundreds of factories across the world. Different systems, like different SCADA systems, PLCs, whatever. And they're trying to understand why they have so much downtime. And so, downtime, right? And so they're just like trying to figure out, but they're thinking about the complexity of having to adapt some sort of edge AI, whatever, and bring it down there versus collecting as much data as possible and shoving it up there for making sense of it. And I think there's going to be a middle ground here. There's a notion of that data will have to be normalized, unified, filtered on site, on each of the factory floors, maybe with aggregation point somewhere, and how much of that is really going to be pushed up to the cloud. For now, their perspective is like, I don't want to have to deal with the huge diversity of hardware that I have and bad networks and whatever. I have data points, and I want to send that somewhere, and I want someone to make sense of that. And so that's interesting because they're coming from industrials, they're at that point right now.
Well, and making sense requires a lot of context, right?
Yes.
And then you have different sense that need to be made. So, like, why wouldn't you send it to the cloud? It could be a security thing, right?
Yeah.
It could be a cost thing. It could be, I don't know, what are some other things that you might hear?
Like latency.
Latency
is a problem, yeah.
As you start to think about that context of all these, in which all these things need to be analyzed, that to me then starts to get you to where you can start thinking about agents, right? Compliance is a big one, right? Like any sort of data that is being transferred, like I need to make sure it's compliant. Well, this is a great use case to build one specific agent for where, hey, these are the compliances that we are held to. Your job, agent, is only to make sure that this data before it goes here fits that compliance.
Yeah, makes sense.
There's another one that's maybe for like cost and efficiency, right? Like, hey, before you actually process to the cloud, let's make sure that we've done the pre-processing, or let's make sure that we've done the cleaning, or we've sorted out or made sense of it. That's where, again, these start to become those tools or those agents that you can then ultimately start to build and orchestrate a multi-agent system. And then the framework that I started getting people to think about too is like, AGI, not Edge AI, AGI. I think it's scary to some people, right? We think Terminator, but like really think about it more as like a virtual compliance officer, right? Or a virtual factory floor assistant that you can work on. What are all the things that person would do in a day, and then how can you start to identify which of those tasks might actually be a better fit for AI to handle versus you? And to go back to your like risk model thing, right? It's like, where is there so much data that it's like hard to handle, but the like risk of inaccuracy is low, but the value might be high. And value can be measured by cost. It can be measured by time savings. It can be measured by a couple of different things.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, that was a good conversation tonight.
You too, man. Last one, right?
Maybe not. There's some more people waiting, so like stay around. We never know, right? Thanks a lot, man. Okay, so we're still live from the AGI Foundation event in Austin, and we are at the social here that the 5V Media team is hosting. It's pretty lots of fun here.
It's a great event.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
definitely, lots of fun. And we have our last guest of the night. Last one. Okay, last one.
Nobody else is waiting.
Yeah, nobody. So, well, tell us about yourself. Who are you?
Yeah.
What are you doing?
So Tom Dever, yep. I've been in IoT space for the last 25 years. All kinds of different products that we put together for different companies. And this is the next generation is now the AI.
AGI.
And so if you want to get funding for your company, put AI at the beginning of the name or the end of the name. So people invest in what you're doing.
25 years of experience in this domain, because it's actually not a new domain. Like AGI is, it's a continuity or a combination. Let's say it's a combination of different technology worlds, but it's very much like inheriting from a lot of what the IoT has been doing. And prior to IoT was like smart connected devices,
M2M,
embedded machine to machine. Yeah, we can go back, right? So there's nothing really new, is there?
I would say that what's gotten exciting is the technology has shrunk in size and cost.
Okay.
And so I think when M2M was popular 25 years ago, you could build a solution, but it might cost you $1,000 or $2,000 to build this prototype.
Okay.
Now with the way things have gone, I can put together an IoT solution for $100 or $200.
True.
And so it's
we just lost the light. It's the end of the light.
The light's like, I'm done.
Yeah, keep we'll don't go away. We're not dead. I have a solution for that because I knew that battery would die before the others. And so what I'm gonna do is give us some light here. Let's see. There you go.
Fantastic. There we go.
Look at that. We're back here,
Brighten
right?
up again. Excellent.
I'm prepared.
So yeah, I think it's gotten really interesting how the technology has shrunken in size and cost that you can go and develop a prototype for a very small amount of money. So what that ends up enabling are a lot of startups that don't need a ton of funding to get started, and they can go off and build a product and prove a solution to solve a problem with a very small amount of money. And so I think it's opened up the doors, and you see it here. There's a ton of startup folks here. You see it because they are able to develop stuff at a very low cost.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. That's interesting. But do you think the customers are ready to make the move and evolve? Because things are evolving pretty fast. You're talking about the price and evolution of hardware, but like most of the customers that would be potentially using these solutions are evolving more slowly than this technology. You see what I mean? Especially in domains like industrial automation, and we have lots of and there's also the notion of regulations that will impose systems to have been existing for some time before they use to be put in the hands of consumers, or so do you think there's going to be a gap between where things are at in terms of the technology capabilities and when we're going to see actual solutions leveraging it?
It's an adoption thing. You're exactly right. So the way that they've been doing stuff in the past that has worked and is validated and they're supporting, they don't want to change.
Okay.
And so you have to show them a fundamental difference that will change the outcomes, either a business outcome or a technology outcome, could be either way, that will change how things are managed so that it makes it easier, faster, cheaper, more efficient. You have to prove that point.
ROI, right?
You have to prove an ROI. So you have to have a business problem that you're solving with technology. But I think the fact that it's got a lot cheaper actually makes it easier for you to prove the solution out and build something with very quickly and very efficiently. But then adoption is still going to take time because now you've got this new thing. And when you talk about AI, you talk about LLMs or something like that. Now you've got something that's not quite as understood.
Pretty confusing, actually, if you ask me.
Do I want my machine to make some decisions about what it's doing on its own?
Yes.
Well, I want to make sure that at least it has some guardrails so that it doesn't go outside of boundaries that I set. We worked with medical devices and industrial automation, putting AI into them, but making sure that from an embedded perspective, it was bounded. So the AI can make decisions inside of boundaries, but it couldn't go beyond those boundaries and make decisions that would harm a person, whether it's a patient or whether it's a piece of machinery. They can't make a decision that could do
You're
that.
saying there's a more basic piece of software that would actually limit the super smart piece of software?
That's right. That's right.
That's what
Instead
it
of
is,
those
right?
boundaries. Instead of those boundaries. Yeah. It's something that has to be done, right? It has to be contained in some way.
Yeah.
Because you want to make sure the device doesn't go outside of the boundaries.
Until someone is able to build an AI model that is deterministic. You see, like we had this like long debate like 10 years ago about what is real time. And this notion that a real-time OS was to allow you to have software that was deterministic. So whatever the situation and the parameters, the output would be known, right?
What I've seen is the technology is getting to the point where you can put two different processors in a system. So, like our Arduinos, they have it's a semi as a type and has an MCU as a second core.
Yeah.
And so your deterministic stuff can go on the MCU.
Okay.
That is running is not running an operating system. It's running bare metal. It's very deterministic and runs in that big loop.
Yeah.
But then you have a Linux-based system that now you can do the graphics and other things that are non-deterministic.
Yeah, fair. Okay.
So you just separate the two out.
Yeah.
And it's low enough cost that you can do that.
But what do you run AGI?
So you run the AGI
on the Linux box, on the Linux part, right? So it's not.
You could run a microcontroller as well.
Yeah.
But again, if you want absolute deterministic, you're probably not going to run AI.
Yeah, because the nature of the models themselves and the way they've been developed is that they will lend to a certain level of accuracy on their inference, right? And you decide what is that level that is good enough, right?
And the boundaries as well, and setting up
and the boundaries, yes,
and setting those up so that if it is a deterministic system, it's got time slots, and so the AI can operate inside of a time slot, but that's all it gets.
Yeah, totally.
It has to be done at that point.
Yeah, we're discussing earlier with someone she's a teacher at John Hopkins, like she's focused on robotics, and we're talking about the notion of making these AGI models like more specialized, even tinier. Getting them to have a level of result that is higher in terms of accuracy, but more specialized. And then you would distribute the intelligence, and you would have different parts of your robotic arm, for example, with different types of AIs. And then you would orchestrate communication between these different nodes. And there you could get closer to real time and to determinism by having like smarter piece of things talking to each other, right?
You can even do this in the same MCU. So now there's a system called Atom, based on a technology called Okra, which is Linux Foundation. And Atom is really cool because it containerizes the environment. It containerizes the AI. So now you can make it deterministic based on the container that it's running in. It also makes it very easy to upgrade and change out the firmware itself in that one container and just affect that. And so only one piece of the code is being affected. So very interesting technology.
That's pretty cool. Actually, I had Jason on the show last time we did live. Actually,
oh, fantastic!
And I think he's going to be around tomorrow.
Oh,
awesome. I think Jason is going to be with Stefan, one of the two.
Very interesting technology. If you're an embedded engineer, that is a technology you should be taking a look at.
And I love the approach of leveraging WebAssembly. Because then it kind of like simplifies the embedded development by allowing you to code with whatever language you want.
It's Docker on a diet.
It's like Docker. That's
Docker on a diet.
The way they're presenting
you can run whatever you want inside of that containerized environment, but it runs on kilobits worth of space. So instead of being megabytes worth of space, it's kilobytes.
And that's interesting you bring that up because this notion of containerization coming down to the microcontrollers extends the story that lots of the hyperscalers are trying to build around, first microservices in the cloud. Now we're saying with Kubernetes clusters and Docker containers, the ability to bring that to the edge, heavier edge to start with. But now you can start saying maybe an app model that could span across all of these platforms, and you can have a distribution of your system or intelligence that will span across all of that, right? So you'd be able to say, hey, I'm going to read from that vibration sensor, deploy that piece of software down there, and it's going to communicate with that one here that does inference and vision plus that, and then send the data out to some other microservices doing something else, maybe in the cloud, maybe in another place. That's pretty interesting.
It also allows you to use engineers and software developers that maybe are used to that environment.
Yes.
As opposed to hiring very expensive embedded firmware engineers.
Sure.
Which I don't know. I've been to a bunch of universities with Arduino and the education side of things.
Yeah.
The kids that are in university today do not want to be embedded engineers. There's very few of them that actually want to be embedded firmware engineers. They love cloud services. They love micro environments they can operate in.
Yeah.
They love the higher languages, but they don't necessarily want to go and program in C. They just don't want to do that. I grew up on Fortran, Pascal, then C.
Look at us. We're all like that's what it is.
And so, yeah, I don't actually program in C++. Like I stayed in C, but they don't want to do that, right? They want to use the languages that are easier to build things and quicker to build things.
Sure. I can see that. And actually, I don't think they've been teaching many classes. What worries me, though, is that even though you're working in a container, like you still need to have notions of what's going on under the hood, right? And so
all abstracted away.
It's all abstracted.
All APIs.
It's like I'm going to allocate memory, and I don't know how memory works, right? It's like kind of a little bit scary for me.
So maybe Malloc ruined everything in the first place.
Yeah, that's what happened.
When you didn't have to actually arrange it yourself.
Yeah. Now, if something like Atom is doing that correctly, the right way, putting the boundaries where it needs to be for developers to not go too crazy on their code, right? Because I'm always scared when I see interpreted languages running on embedded devices in terms of response time and determinism.
You never know how every time it's compiled, it can be different.
Yes. Yeah,
it can make a huge difference.
So we'll see where that goes. But I think the promise is pretty interesting, and having an app model that spans across all the types of edges, from tinier to heavier, that's super interesting. Yeah, I like that. So, how do you like the event so far? How is AGI Foundation?
That's been great. Yeah, no, this is a perfect venue. Lots of our customers are actually here, so that's fantastic to see them. And actually, there's customers of our customers here as well. So I've met a few folks from different companies that are interested in new technologies. They're here to learn about Edge AI.
Okay.
At the same time, our customers are here that can teach them about the technologies they have.
That's awesome.
So yeah, it's been a great event.
Cool. Well, it was nice for you to stop by. We should have you on the IoT show for longer episodes someday soon. So we'll definitely do that. And to everyone who tuned in, thanks a lot. We are stopping for tonight, and we'll see you soon on the IoT show.
All right. Bye. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
See you soon. Are you at Embedded World?
Yes,
I
will be there.
Okay.
Yes.
I thought we went back and forth.